All right, for today's session, we're going to cover on testing, right? And you know, the testing is very important in all development, right? As you also has covered in your SAD, system design analysis, right? They also cover the user acceptance test, right? So Laravel also built in with testing in mind, right? It support for testing with PHP units. It includes out of the box, right? So when you install, PHP unit is there, right? And PHP unit and PHP unit.xml file is already in the package, right? So the framework also ships with convenient helper methods that allow you to expressly test your application. So testing to test your application. Okay, I will answer the question later on. All right. Right, by default, your application test directory contain two directories, right? So one you have installed. The test directive will contains features and units, right? What is units? Unit tests are the tests that focus on a very small, isolated portion of your code, right? So you want to test module by module or function by function, right? In fact, most unit tests probably focus on single methods, right? It tests within your unit test directory, do not boot. So actually, when we test, it's just not boot your Laravel application, right, to test the database, right? So it just tests the inside the code. All right. Next is the future test. So the second folder, right? So when you have to install, you can see inside test. This one inside test folder, there is a futures, right? There is futures and unit. So I will delete this one and okay, I will delete this and I will generate the new one for you. Right. So basically, it come with the these two folder with the one file, right? The file is example test.php. So inside the future and unit, there is one file, example.test.php, right? So this file, example.test.php file is provided in both futures and unit test directory after you have installed application, right? Or you can execute by using window bin PHP unit, right? But normally we run on PHP artisan test, right? So how to generate the test, right? So in the future, you might need your own test file. You want to create your own test file, right? Instead of using the default one, right? You can generate your own file test, right? So for example, right, you want to generate your own file, right? Your own file, you can run in the terminal, right? PHP artisan make test and user test, right? So when you have run this file, okay, it will automatically generate this file for you, user test of PHP, right? On default, it will generate inside the futures, right? In the futures. But if you need to generate inside the unit, the futures mean you want to test the overall, right? In unit, you want to test in specific, right? If you want to generate in the specific in the unit, you just put minus unit, right? Or dash unit, right? Can right, that's unit, then it will generate inside the unit. Okay, then it will generate inside the unit. So this external, actually it generate this the similar file, right? The similar file with the original one, right? Okay. So that's how to generate, right? Okay. So when the test has generated, you may define test methods, right? Or you can manipulate your own file, right? So how to run the test, right? To run your test, right? You can run, normally we run on the PHP artisan test command line, right? How to run, right? Very simple. You run PHP artisan test, right? I mean you want to test for specifically, right? So this is in addition, PHP unit command, you may use artisan command, right? So how to run? You can copy this file, right, to run, right? So when you run, it will test, right? It will test this. For example, I don't have this, right? I don't have this, right? So now when you it tests both file. It tests on the example test.php and it tests on example test.php inside the future and inside the unit, right? Okay, so to test. For example, you want to test the about us, for example, about us link, right? But you did not create any, you do not have any file or any link to about us, right? So when you test, it will give you one file, one fail error, right? Because you have inside this, right? What about you want to test only inside the features, right? If you want to test only in the features, right? You can specify, right? Specify here, PHP artisan test, right? And then you have test suite equal to features, right? So you can go specify to test the features only, right? So you have only, again, you have one file, but you test only inside the features, right? How to make this successful? I mean, you need to create about us link or page, right? You can create your own page, or you can just simply create your own route, right? So in this case, I just create route, get about us, and then function to return about us, right? Mean the the there are some route, there are something, right? Right. Okay. Now when we run, right, it should show no error, right? It should pass. Mean the test is passed. Mean the about us page is there. So instead of you go into the URL and test about us or any page, you can write a simple code. Or in the future, if you have a lot of link to be checked, you can just simply put all those links and run this test, right? And run this test, just simple as that, right? So as you know, testing is very important inside in the industry. There also a position for testing, right? So most probably the new software, this is the way they test, right? It's not like you just open the application or website and test one by one, right? It takes a lot of time and sometimes it's not accurate, right? So most of the current software, they test on the command line, right? You can run this, you can put, right, anything that you want to test, and you can run this test and it will generate a report for you automatically, right? All right. Any question? Any question? start presenting.